Hey everyone, welcome to another Learn to Code video. Today we're going to go over how to work with files in Python. This will help out with a lot of, especially if you're just starting out with coding. One of the things that you can do is just kind of automate your day-to-day. And now after this lesson, hopefully you'll have a decent understanding of how to work with files, which I think everybody in multiple fields will deal with. So hopefully this can help automate some of your tasks. So I'm joined by the mechanical engineer.
Hey there.
All right, so today's going to be like mainly just a syntax lesson, learning how to use all these file things. So to start, we're actually just going to, in our Python, we're going to make a file and we're going to open it with write permissions. So to do that, the standard, basically what we're doing is we're creating an object that is going to be, if you remember from classes, right? So we're basically creating an object of more or less a file type that has like built-in methods associated with it to allow us to read and write to the file. So to start off, why don't you just say that f equals, so f here is going to be our file object, and we're going to set that equal to open. And you see it pops up there, and basically what we need to provide this is a file name as a string, and then the mode that we're going to give, or the permission level, basically, that we're going to give this file. So to do that, we can just open parentheses there. You can call the file anything you want as a string. Potatoes, that's great. I've noticed you have a lot of foods that you really like to. It's always chips and potatoes and yeah.
I almost read chips.
Yeah, you always write chips. All right, and then you can do a comma there for the second argument. And then we're going to open this with write permissions so we can actually create the file. So to do that, you just do as a string the letter W.
Okay.
All right, so what we have is f is going to be our file object. And then what we want to do is we can write a couple things to this file. And then later we can kind of read from it. And then I'll show you how different methods built in will return different data types for you. So the first thing you're going to do is remember that f is an object, so it has methods associated with it. So we can call f.write. And you see there it has, it just takes in one argument, right, s. So that's going to be what you want to write to the file. So why don't you just write something? I assume it will be food related. Okay. Did you watch Disney movies?
Oh, yeah.
And then you're going to write something, you're going to copy that line. And you can write one other thing. Big Disney fan with the Marvel too. All right. So I also don't think I've actually mentioned this to you, but at the end of each of these strings, I want you to type a \n.
Inside?
You know what's, yep, inside the string. It should syntax highlight, yeah. Do you know what this does?
No. Oh, wait, maybe. Does it like put a space in between the writes?
It's a new line character.
Okay.
So, yeah, so basically, and in the text file, start a new line right after that. So then on line 4, why don't you just type f.close so we can close out this file descriptor so it doesn't get left open if we do anything else in our program. All right, great. So why don't you just run this?
Okay.
And if you look, your potatoes file was created there. And inside is the text that you just put in the Python code, right?
Yeah.
All right, so now we have our file, and it's filled with whatever text you decided. So now what we can do is we can remove the code we have, except leave line 1. And then now that we already have this file, so if you think in your day-to-day, if you have like a CSV file or something else that already exists, then you want to read back from it. So to do that, we have to change our mode on line 1 to read. And I'll see if you can guess what letter read is instead of W.
R?
It's R, yep.
Okay.
Make it very easy to figure it out.
So am I changing here into R?
Yep. Yeah, so now this F object we have, it used to have write permission, and now it only has read permission.
Gotcha.
Permissions is a whole other thing that you may or may not be familiar with. Kind of has to do with your OS and ownership of certain files. But for now, just know that by putting R there, we can only read. By putting W, we can only write.
Mm-hmm.
So to start, why don't you just call? Let's assign this to a variable, so we can print it out later, and then just do f.read.
Okay.
Set it equal to sure. That's great. And then just open and close parentheses, no parameters, and then print laser on the next line. Right.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
Because you have like PyCharm is nice. Notice how the new line characters don't show up anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But your PyCharm actually knows that a new line character means new line, so when it prints it out, it gives you a nice readable format, like you expect, basically. But why don't you print, and if you remember this, type, TYPE of laser on there. So, remember it, good. Let's just run that now.
Strings.
So now, what if you had a file with a bunch of lines, and each of those lines was like an entry from one of your users, right? Like say it's just like Excel doc, and you want to do some operation on all of these things. There's a couple ways to do it. So for one of them, on line 2 there, change read to read lines, and then run this. So now what we have is a list, right? And this would be great if we want to, if these, the things in the file are something that we want to kind of like iterate through all of the lines in the file, right? So read lines will basically just return a list of all the lines as elements in the list. So now you notice though that the new line characters hang around here.
Mm-hmm.
So you may have to do some like pre-processing if you do want to deal with like a string here and remove those. Sometimes it won't matter, but it's good to know that, if you put those in, then they are still going to be there, right? And then the last way we'll learn how to read from files is, why don't we remove lines 2, 3, and 4 there?
Mm-hmm.
So now, like I just said, read lines is basically going down the whole thing and basically appending each of these lines into one list. So you can actually iterate through a file the same way you would a list, with each line being one iteration, right? So to do that, you would just say for line and F, and again, line is just a descriptive term. Like normally, and then why don't you just print line here?
Okay.
So now you get no new lines, and you get each line at a time. So basically, printing it is kind of a useless thing, but if you think about it, if you want to iterate through and do something to each of these lines, then this is a good way to do that. Now, the last thing we're going to go over is the difference between writing and appending to a file. So we're not going to do this, we'll just talk it out. But if you open, say you went back to line 1 there, and you change that R to a W, and then you can remove lines 2 and 3. So now, if you wanted to add a line to this, what do you think you would do? Like, you want to keep your Peter Pan and Captain America, but you want to add something like a third line.
Do I want to still do it on the same, like line 1 here, or is it on line 2? I'd make this change.
Well, to put it, instead of actually running through it, what would happen if you did f.write again is it would actually overwrite the file. Why don't you just try it just to make sure I'm correct here?
So try this, run this.
Yeah.
So it should print over the first line. Oh, those lines. Okay.
So yeah, it basically reopens the file and then starts writing from line 1 on like a clean slate. So now leave this is weird, but now we can change the W in permission to A.
And then it'll put us at the end.
Now I need to run this again, and we'll see.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
There you go. So now you see why the new line characters are really important.
Mhm.
And basically, be really careful if you're calling this open constructor thing with write permission over and over again, like in a loop, for example. That's a really common error I see. So now if you wrote something new, then the new line would pop up. So the new line character.
Yeah.
So
could I put one here too?
do that too. So why don't you run something else and see what happens?
So this should put 2 lines, I think. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, as long as this is the same, will be what you expect. But yeah, so be careful. Like if you're in a loop and you're like, the good practice would be to open the file once at the top with the permissions you need, and then work with it within. Don't always reopen it because you can like overwrite your work basically.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, this was kind of the intro to files, working with them. There's a few other things you can do, but this will probably cover, the majority of what you're doing with files. And it's nice that all these operations are built into the language, so you don't have to import any libraries or anything like that. So, yeah, you got any questions?
Cool. No, I think I'm all set for now.
All right, awesome.